welcome back to another episode of Talk How We Talk Sports Talk. Today's episode is being presented to y'all by two Louisiana boys. I'm one of the hosts, David O, and I'm here today with my co-host slash producer.
D. Broussard.
Yes, sir. We in the
Yes, sir.
building.
Yes, sir.
What's going on with
Oh man, life be life.
you? Hey, I already know, man. It be life, bro. Like I
Yeah,
told you yesterday in the private text, bro.
yeah, absolutely,
Your boy
absolutely.
been going through it, but we still gotta do it. You know what
We
I'm
gotta
saying?
do it, baby. We gotta keep going. We
Yep,
gotta
yep.
keep going, man. Through the storm, it's always sunshine at the end of the storm.
No, for real, for real, for
Yeah,
real,
for
for real,
real.
bro. Yeah,
Yeah, I've
man.
been through
So
my share. You heard me?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's going down tonight, though. We're gonna be talking about some NBA playoffs for everybody listening, tuning in. We definitely appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all like, subscribe to the channel, jump in the comments. We definitely appreciate that. But man, it's been crazy, bro. I've been having some good games, dog. Like the series and stuff, been going back and forth. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? I've been enjoying the playoff run, man. We have right now like the whole Eastern Conference it's 3-2, like everybody. Three
Mm-hmm.
two, 3-2, 3-2, We got a couple teams that didn't advance. Thunder swept the Suns, so they advanced. We got, T Wolves and the Spurs, they both advanced to the next round. You got those Rockets looking to, make a comeback, kind of scary on them Lakers. I thought Lakers,
Yeah,
but bruh, them Rockets, they
yeah.
came back, 3-2. So we're gonna see what they do tonight. But yeah, man. But I'm gonna let my boy D take over, do his thing. We're gonna jump right into it and get to it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like always, you know how we do it. Talk how we talk. Segment time. What you think? Now, what you think is our segment where we pick a numerous amount of topics and we give you guys our perspective on each one of these topics. So we gonna dive straight into it. Let's talk about it, Dio. Knicks close out the Hawks. What you think?
Man, like I predicted the Knicks to win, right? But Atlanta did put up a good fight. For a couple of the games. I was seeing people all on social media going crazy. What I'm saying, at the Hawks games. Atlanta was definitely in the building for their team, man. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, Knicks, did what they did, and they held strong, and they was able to close out the series. And I mean, in this last game, man, I mean, it was like a historic game, of blowout. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
140 points to 89 points. So I mean, it was crazy. So that was good, for the Knicks, to close it out like that, and to be able to, have that momentum going into the second round, knowing that, hey, man, look, for any doubters that doubted us, kind of like, don't play with us, don't play with our
Mm-hmm.
name type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Put some respect on the Knicks name type of thing. So I'm definitely happy that they advanced, because like I talked about previous episodes, the Knicks fans, they just been so loyal to that team, man, and to see the Knicks bring one back to the Garden, even though I'm not a Knicks fan personally, I know what it would do for the city and for the fans. So, but what went right for the Knicks? They had great defense. They forced a lot of turnovers throughout this series. They held the Hawks to under 40% field goal shooting in over the last three games. So the defense definitely stepped up for the Knicks. Game six, they had lots of steals, some blocks as well. So Knicks definitely came out, defensively, ready to put the nail in the coffin in the Hawks. But also, they Carl Anthony Towns, they not only did Jalen Brunson, control the offense, they also ran some of the offense through Carl Anthony Towns. So they was able to get their big man involved a little bit as well. So I'm definitely liking that it was, everybody stepped up, and Brunson didn't have to put the whole team on his back.
Mm-hmm.
Bridges stepped up, Town stepped up, OG
And
Anobi,
Anobi.
he stepped up, so a
Mm-hmm.
total team effort when it counted. And I know we talked about Mike Brown before, how he always getting jobs and getting fired, but man, shout out to Mike Brown,
Shout out to Mike
to
Brown.
be able to
Yeah.
get those guys focused, and
Mm-hmm.
have that type of a statement win in Game Six. Uh, to close those boys out, man. So, but shout out to the Atlanta. They're a young team. what I think, what went wrong for Atlanta is that how the Knicks played more of team ball. Atlanta kind of they didn't really have a true superstar that they could
Mm-hmm.
kind of lean on or go towards,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to provide that, spark that they needed, kind of like how, Brunson was able to do with the Knicks and, being the superstar over there. So that's what I think went wrong for the Hawks. They just didn't have a superstar to lean on. Turnovers definitely, was an issue too that killed them. And just inconsistency on the offensive end. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what I seen from this series. But it was a good series though. Definitely kept you on the edge of your seat until until the blowout win.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you on that. The Hawks absolutely had a meltdown last night. I definitely was a little disappointed. I felt like the Hawks kind of was starting to gain a little momentum in this series, and I felt like the Hawks actually had an opportunity to win this series. In my opinion, I felt like the Hawks they have a lot of talent on that team. You got Jonathan Kuminga, C.J. McCullough was playing out of his mind in this series. Dyson Daniels, excuse me, Dyson Daniels did a good job. And then I think, the kid Jalen Johnson, he still has to develop a little bit more. I think he's not so ready for the big stage just yet. It's kind of like what you said about not having a superstar just yet. But I think that Jalen Johnson is going to be a superstar in the league. He reminds me a lot of a young LeBron as far as his game and the way that he plays. He's long, athletic. He can pass. He can play the point guard, kind of like a guard forward, kind of like LeBron a little bit.
Mm.
And I think he's going to continue to develop. But I mean, he just didn't show up in this series. I think this was his first playoff series. So, obviously a lot of learning to do going there. And then obviously, the Hawks, the team that they put together, they hadn't really been together all season. Like the team was
Yeah.
basically like a lot of new guys on
Mm.
the same team. They brought Jonathan Kuminga in during the trade deadline. So I feel like the chemistry just wasn't there for the Hawks. That kind of hurt them a lot. But it's no shade to the Knicks. I did feel like the Knicks were a little questionable in this series because I felt like the Knicks should have maybe dominated this series a little bit. Um, but I have to tip my head off to Mike Brown, like you said. He done a great job making adjustments throughout the series, and it's a good win for the Knicks. Like you say, the Knicks, the fan base is crazy. A historic franchise. They definitely deserve to, you know, continue winning. And right now, I don't know. It's kind of looking like the Knicks have a pretty good chance of possibly making the NBA Finals coming out of the East right now because a team that we're gonna talk about later it's not really looking good. So, you know, like I say, man, got to tip your head off to Mike Brown and the Knicks for the job they did and closing the Hawks out in the fashion that they did as well.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah. Next up, Wolves close out Nuggets. What you think about the Wolves closing out the Nuggets, Dio? Because we both were really high on the Nuggets
Mhm.
winning this series. And it's like I told you, it could go either way because
Mhm.
it's two good teams. So, um, this was the result. So, what you think about the Wolves closing out the Nuggets?
Yeah, man, like you said, I was definitely leaning more towards the Nuggets just because of, the Joker and Murray, championship team, experience, just those two guys, especially Joker, he's always like, in the MVP running. So I definitely was leaning towards them, but I never did count Minnesota out just because, Minnesota, as I mentioned in the last episodes, they definitely had some vet players that were all previously great and good players, from
Hmm.
Conley to what's the boy name? The one from the
Julius Randle.
yeah,
Yeah,
Julius
you spoke
Randle,
about Julius Randle as well.
him,
Yeah.
Rudy Gobert, and what I like, what I was surprised at was that they was able to send the Nuggets going fishing like they like to say even without
Anthony
Anthony
Edwards.
Edwards. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? With him being injured, I definitely thought that Nuggets was gonna make the comeback because they was down. The Wolves led. It was like 3-1, and then
Mm,
the Nuggets came back. Tied it up to bring it to 3-2. So I definitely thought that they was gaining some momentum. And then when I seen the injury happen, I was like, okay, Nuggets gonna make the comeback. And I think they're gonna be one of the teams to come back from a 3-1 deficit, right? But shout out to the Wolves for being able to keep composure even with their star guys being out. Defense definitely set the tone. Rudy Gobert, with him being, two-time, even I think three-time, I think even defensive player of the year.
mm,
Rim protection. Even Jaden McDaniels, with the defense, on the perimeter. I think that was some, definitely, played a factor for the Timberwolves. What went good for the Timberwolves, and then even with the not the Timberwolves, yeah, Timberwolves. I'm sorry. And then with the Nuggets, what I think went well for the Nuggets, I just think even with them like kind of trying to lock down Joker, I think Joker still played well. I just think that at the end of the day, it's just they need more than just those two guys. I think
mm-hmm,
more than just the Joker and Murray. You got to have other guys that can contribute at a high level, to kind of relieve some of the pressure of those guys to try to always make the play or set up or be the facilitator. With Jokic, having to do that role, being a big man. So that's kind of what I think that the Nuggets need to work on moving forward, and maybe getting Jokic some more talent around him.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I agree with that 100%. It's kind of just like you said, no Dante DiVincenzo, no um Anthony Edwards in the series, and the Wolves were still able to close out the Nuggets. Like you said, a championship experience type team. They've been there before. They know how to win in big games. And for the Wolves to close this series out without their star player and also a key player in their offense, you know, it says a lot about the job that Chris Finch has done with this basketball team and player development, developing the players that he has on his roster to be able to step in next man up and close out a series in the playoffs. And they also didn't play with I want to say his name is AU uh Diamante or something like that, but he was going crazy in this series. I mean, he was averaging like 21.8 points a game, and he didn't play in the last game either, and the Wolves still got it done. So, like I said, it just, you know, you got to tip your head off to a guy like Chris Finch, doing the job that he's done with this team, getting these guys prepared and ready to, be in a playoff game and close out a really good team. The young guys, even in the last game, a lot of those guys were real young guys and they stepped up. They played big. And like I said, Chris Finch did a great job developing these young guys and, having them ready to go going into the playoffs to close out this series. But I feel like with the Nuggets, I feel like the loss of Aaron Gordon really, really hurt them a whole lot because Aaron Gordon has always been a key to their team. And I feel like that really hurt them a whole lot when Aaron Gordon went down. You
yeah,
know, I think if Aaron Gordon would have been healthy and he played in the series, I think it might have been a different story.
yeah,
But being that the Nuggets were without Aaron Gordon, I think that just really hurt them a lot. And like you say, even with the Joker, they're gonna have to find some more guys to surround around him and build a better team around him because he is an MVP caliber type player. And as long as you keep building talent and putting talent around them, the Nuggets are always gonna be a force to be reckoned with. So, and also I'm gonna be honest, I think the coach was a little bit questionable for me. I don't know what they're gonna do
yeah,
about the coach, but obviously, they didn't win the series, and I felt like they were the favorites going into the series. So obviously, a lot of question marks going into the offseason for the Denver Nuggets.
yeah, yeah. A lot of people, had the Denver Nuggets to take the series, and like you mentioned, the coach too. That's definitely something that I heard on a show, on another show that I was watching. and they kind of mentioned that as well about maybe Joker having to get like a new coach around him,
Mm-hmm.
somebody he respects,
Mm-hmm.
along with those other players. But I agree with you too for the Aaron Gordon situation. I think if
Mm-hmm.
he would have been playing, because he's a big, big player, and
Yeah.
definitely, score and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. I liked him when he was with the Magics.
Me too.
Anytime he played, anytime one of my teams played, I always had to keep an eye on him. When
Mm-hmm.
they play the Magic. So I definitely agree with you on that too.
Yeah. 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 Like I said, the coaching situation. I don't know. I didn't really respect the Denver Nuggets firing Mike Malone. I felt like that was a questionable decision in my opinion because, he won them a championship. So it's kind of like what we talked about with the Knicks and Tom Thibodeau. It's like one of them situations where you just kind of like you don't really understand it. But I mean, obviously the team felt like they needed to go in a different direction. So, you know,
Yep. Job is never safe. Your job never
never.
safe. No matter if you're winning, whether when they feel like a change is needed, they can get rid of you, and it's kind of crazy how they can do that. You know what I'm saying? Because like I think they should put something on. I don't know if they got something like that already or not, but like how you can't trade a player after the deadline or something like
Hmm.
that. I don't think they should be able to get rid of coaches at any time neither. I think they need to have like some kind of something set in place to where like you can't get rid of the coach after
Hmm.
a certain time because
Right.
he done got him up to that point, in the season or whatever, and then you let him go. They make it to the playoffs, and now the other coach is gonna, if they end up winning, then the other coach is gonna be getting credit for them winning when he came at the end of all of the,
Hmm.
the hustle and the grind that they didn't put in throughout the beginning of the season. So
Hmm.
I think that's something that needs to be addressed.
Right. Right. I agree with that. Now, that's big for me. I'm always big on coaching and systems. I feel like coaching really matters, so I'm always gonna advocate for the coaches because a lot of times, like you said, these
These
coaches
coaches
are
are
building
building
these
these teams.
teams up and they get fired. I don't understand it.
Hmm.
The Detroit Pistons collapse. Now, the Detroit Pistons were a team that we both were very high on. We talked about the Detroit Pistons the entire season.
Hmm.
You brought it to my attention that they was number one in the East in one video that we had, one show. And after that, I started paying attention to Detroit Pistons. I really like the team, but right now they're fighting to go to a game 7. Didn't really expect this happening, especially going up against the Orlando Magic, who have really been struggling this season. I really don't understand it. I'm lost for words with the
Hmm.
Detroit Pistons. What you think about this Detroit Pistons collapse, Dio?
And I just gotta tip my hat off to Orlando, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, because it's like, coming in as the 8th seed, in this playoff, a lot of times the underdogs get written off, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times, the fans, the media, everybody want to go with the top teams, the number one
Mm-hmm.
seeds, the number two seeds. But it just goes to show you that how, in the playoffs, it doesn't matter. If it's I heard somebody the other day say the season don't start until the playoffs. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? Because it's like no matter what you do during the season, that doesn't matter. You have to win the playoff games in order to get to the ultimate goal, which is winning the championship. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that Orlando, I think they played good defensively. I think they played free, offensively. I think they just went out there and they was like, hey, we have nothing to lose and everything to gain. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And I think that mentality, is what give them the edge over Detroit. And I know you talk about the young guy. I don't know how to really pronounce his name,
Paulo Bencaro.
Bencaro. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? He was given the Detroit Pistons, you know, some issues and some problems. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? So, as far as just mid post scoring, drawing fouls, playmaking under pressure. The guy really stepped up and really came to play. And with Orlando being a young team like that, I think they have a lot of upside potential. And I think that really like with the Pistons, besides Cade Cunningham, I really haven't heard a lot about other players throughout the season. Like anytime you hear about the Pistons, you always hear about Cade Cunningham.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of goes back to what we was just talking about, like how you can't lean on just one player, because if you have one player that's the star of the team, the other team is gonna come up with a scheme to try to stop that player and make other players on the team beat them. We can live with everybody, with the other people beating us, but as long as we can stop your main guy, that gives us an opportunity to win, and that gives us
True.
an opportunity to advance. And
Mm-hmm.
to kind of reference that to what the Thunder did with the Suns, that's kind of what the Thunder did with the Suns. They shut down Devin Booker, bam, sweep. You know what I'm saying? So I think in this series too is that I think just Detroit, even though they was known for defense throughout the year, um, I think they need maybe some more scoring as
Mm-hmm.
to go along with Cade Cunningham. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the Magics, from just defense and offensively, I think they played well in this series, and that's why they got they're up 3-2. And as far as right now, what's the score? Let me see what the score is right now. Right now they down right now. It's 90. Oh, they lost actually. Detroit won. So Detroit forces a game 7. Breaking news. 93-79 is what the
Mm-hmm.
final score is. So Detroit will be going to a game 7 versus the Orlando Magic.
Mm-hmm.
What you think?
Uh, well, I kind of agree with a lot of things that you said, but I do think that Cade Cunningham missing that significant amount of time with the collapsed lung, I felt
Mm-hmm.
like that kind of hurt Detroit a little bit and their chemistry because they were rolling, they were playing well, and then Cade went down with the collapsed lung. He was out for a significant amount of time. So I felt like, you know, Cade kind of had to get back into playing shape. It was kind of unfortunate for him because he had to kind of get back into playing shape at the start of this series. So I felt like that kind of hurt Detroit a little bit and their momentum, going into the playoffs, because most of the time when you're going into the playoffs, you want to have momentum, you want to have chemistry, you want to be ready to dominate the playoffs. So I felt like, and you want to have a full healthy roster as well. So without Cade Cunningham going into the playoffs, I felt like that did affect the Detroit Pistons a little bit. And I felt like, you know, Orlando came to play. Orlando played really good. They played good defense. And like I always do, you got to tip your head off to Jamal Mosley, the Orlando Magic's coach, and the job that he's done with this team. I definitely wasn't expecting this to happen. Definitely not going into a game 7 against the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. But like I say, you got to tip your head off to Jamal Mosley and the job that he's done with this team. He was criticized throughout the season about his coaching, by the star player, Paolo Banchero. But it seemed like in the playoffs, the Magic just hit a switch and they just been playing some really good basketball. And like I said, man, game 7, it's gonna be something to watch. I really feel like it could really go either way right now because I feel like the Orlando Magic do still have the Pistons number. I think they figured out how to beat the Pistons. And that's always a scary thing when a team figures out how to beat you. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
as well, figuring out how to close out on your star guy like a Cade Cunningham or a Devin Booker. So it's like once a team figures you out and figure out how to beat you, it's very hard to beat that type of team. So, you know, I guess we'll see what happened in the game 7, but you got to tip your head off to the Orlando Magic and the job that Jamal Mosley has done. He's gotten them to the playoffs for the last 3 seasons, as I can recall. And, you know, I feel like personally the team doesn't really have a whole bunch of talent around their star player, but I mean, they're finding a way to get it done. So, I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
got to tip your head off to the Orlando Magic.
Yep.
Is Joel Embiid the deciding factor for the 76ers. Now, I think this series is also going to a game 7 against the Boston Celtics. I know the Sixers won yesterday. Joel played. You know, what you think about Joel Embiid, Dio? Is he the deciding factor for the 76ers?
I think he is the deciding factor for the 76ers because Boston had the 76ers on their heels. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? And then Joel Embiid made the comeback. And I mean, in that comeback, if I'm recalling correctly, I think he had like over 30 points.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, for him to come back from injury and put up those type of points, you know what I'm saying, in a single game, that just goes to show you that his presence on the court, not only that he can do it himself, but he can also rally his teammates and make his teammates have more confidence that that they can win.
Mm-hmm.
From Maxi to Paul George to some of the other guys that's on that team, you know, excuse me, stepping up in these last couple of games. You know what I'm saying? Bringing Boston to a game 7 when Boston, I think the series was 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So all he needed to do was win that one game. So for Joel to come back and have the Sixers in contention, forcing that game 7, and I think Game 7 is in Boston, so the Garden is always a tough place to play. The crowd is definitely gonna be there, but I
Mm-hmm.
think all of these guys is built for the moment. From
Mm-hmm.
Joel Embiid to Paul George, because Paul George, he been in a couple good playoff series. He didn't play against some of the best. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
played against LeBron. In when Cleveland and Pacers. He was on the he had linked up with Westbrook, so he didn't play with, superstars. So I think, and he always had a good game offensively and defensively. Paul George always been a good player. So,
Mm-hmm.
besides the situation he recently went through, but I do think Joel Embiid is a difference maker for the Sixers because of his mid post, his mid range game. He's even a big man that can shoot the three. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? But he didn't really do a lot of that. He actually went down in the paint and dominated the paint, and it looks like Boston didn't have an answer for him. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying, in the paint. So he forced double teams. He helped out on rotations when needed to. So I do think that Embiid, is a decision, a factor for,
Factor.
yeah, for the 76.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think the only knock has always been with Joel Embiid is availability. You know, just him not being available, not really playing many games and things of that nature. But ultimately, I mean, I feel like he is a deciding factor, and I feel like if he was healthy throughout the season, I feel like the Sixers would probably be top 3 in the East right now, to be honest, because I mean, I feel like they have a lot of good pieces around Joel Embiid, like you mentioned. You know, Paul George, uh, um, what's the kid name? The shooting guard.
Paul George, Maxi.
Yeah, Tyrese Maxey.
Mm,
Yeah, Tyrese Maxey. They got the young rookie VJ Edgecombe. You know, so and also they got a lot of good role players as well, you know, good coach. So I feel like if Joel Embiid was playing, I feel like the Sixers would be a much better team. So I definitely got to say that he is the deciding factor. And now that he's back and he's been playing well, I kind of think that the Sixers have a good chance to close out this series. I'm gonna be honest, you know, with Paul George, playoff Paul. You know,
mm,
he always been playoff P, they call him. You know, he always been in the playoffs, been in big games. So, you know, he knows what to do in these type of situations. And, you know,
mm,
Tyrese Maxey is a, a huge scorer. So I feel like the Sixers definitely have a good chance to close out this series against the Boston Celtics. I'm gonna be honest, because you know, even with them taking Boston to this game 7, I think it's game 7, right?
yeah, yeah, it's gonna be game 7. Yep.
Yeah. So even with them taking Boston to this game 7, I mean, that to me that's huge because I feel like Boston was really looked at to be the better team, and Boston should have closed them out in game 6, but it didn't happen, you know, because of Joel Embiid and his play. So I
Yep.
feel like the Sixers definitely have a good chance to beat Boston in this series, man. That's gonna be another good one. A game 7,
Yeah,
two good teams. That's gonna be a dog fight.
that's gonna be
So
a good one because
yeah.
you never can count out Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum, and then
Hmm.
they got they championship experience. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Sixers never won one, but they have players that, like I said, is that then been in big moments. And
Hmm.
with Joel Embiid, he slowed the game down. He forced half court basketball. And the Celtics, they kind of more like to run and they like to shoot from the three, and I think that's
Hmm.
what kind of hurt them as well, was that the 3-point shooting, they took a lot of threes instead of trying to just get points that they needed to get. You know what I'm saying? And,
Hmm.
and they just didn't have a answer for Embiid when he was in the paint. So
Hmm.
he got to the foul line. They foul him a lot. And Embiid, he ain't Shaq at the free throw line. And Embiid can knock
Hmm.
down the free throw.
That's true.
So you know what I'm saying. Plus he can shoot the three. He can dominate in the paint. So definitely a deciding factor. And both teams got it's well coached. I think Nick Nurse being a championship coach when he won with the
Hmm.
Raptors,
That's
and
true.
even the guy, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Minzelli or something like that, or whatever you
Uh,
pronounce his name.
yeah.
Uh, the coach for the Celtics, he's a good coach.
Oh,
Young.
Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah, Missoula. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So both well coached teams. Both got star players on their teams. Great environment to play in. Whether you're the home team or the away team. So it's definitely going, like you said, it's going to be a dogfight. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm leaning towards the Sixers though. I'm thinking the Sixers going to advance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because, but Boston gonna come to play. So and then
Oh
that
yeah.
that 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 fan base gonna be there too. So, but I'm
Yeah.
definitely.
Boston definitely gonna come to play, and then you also gotta think about Jason Tatum. Returning after I think 8 months from a torn Achilles. So he's I feel is still trying to get back in stride. I feel like he's not, the complete Jason Tatum just yet, but he
Mm,
has been playing well. So, like you say, man, it's gonna be a dog fight. I'm looking forward to it, looking forward to seeing it. And yeah, I'll be tuned in to that one because yeah, that's gonna be a good one.
yep, they play. They play. They play tomorrow. They play tomorrow at 5:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. So,
Hmm.
and they play on Peacock and on NBC for anybody out there that want to know where they can catch the game at. But I know I'm about to go tune into this Lakers game because if the Rockets can pull a win out tonight, they'll be forcing a game 7. If the
Hmm.
Lakers win it tonight, they'll be advancing. So that's what I'm about to go get into. See what's gonna happen with that. So that's all I got. D, you got anything else for the audience tonight?
Yeah, man, I got one more question for you before
Mm-hmm.
we get out of here.
All right.
Um, the Cleveland Cavaliers,
Mm-hmm.
a team that we talked about a lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, looking like they might be going to a game 7 against the Toronto Raptors. I'm not really sure of the score. I know they was playing
Mm-hmm.
here tonight. Not sure of the score. All
93,
right,
96. Raptors leading right now. Four,
yeah,
6 minutes, a little under 7 minutes left to play.
yeah, yeah. So I feel like the Cleveland Cavaliers kind of collapsed a little bit in this series as well.
Yeah.
I feel like they had a lot of um people feeling like they was supposed to just run away with this series, and now it's looking like they may be going to a game 7. So, what you think about the Cleveland Cavaliers right now?
I mean, with the Cavaliers, I kind of figured that this game series could go either way, because even though, excuse me, even though the Raptors don't have like big names on their team, they got solid players like
Hmm.
R.J. Barrett, Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram, some of the other guys that's on there who as well. So they're a young team. So I think that the Raptors, they wasn't a pushover. But to say that the Cavaliers have more of the star players with James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, possibly having one of the best backcourts in the Eastern Conference, I definitely think that they should have, maybe put the Raptors to bed. But again, it goes to show you that when the playoffs start, anything can happen. We
Mhm.
got Orlando Magics that almost closed out the Pistons if they wouldn't have finished. If they wouldn't have handled their business tonight. So, and that's kind of the same situation that's happening here now. You got um, see these two teams, they're fourth and fifth, so they were right there. It's not like
Mhm.
a 1 versus 8, so they were kind of both. But at the end of the day, Cleveland did have the more star players, so I think they should have closed the Raptors out. But the Raptors have good young players, and you don't need, if you can play as a team, you know, a team is always better than having one or two superstars,
Mhm.
because if you, like you said earlier, if you can stop those main guys, or even just not let them have such great games and just have average games, and then your team is doing what they need to do, you can be in the running. And I
Mhm.
think that's what's happening right now with the Cavaliers and the Raptors. I think the Raptors is just playing like a team, and I just think that the Cavs is just they're not putting them to bed.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I just kind of feel like, it's a lot of pressure on the Cleveland Cavaliers to me because obviously, like I said, Donovan Mitchell, it's always been said that he can't get it done in the playoffs.
Hmm.
James Harden as well. So, I mean, I think both of these two players have been under fire for getting it done in the playoffs. So, I just kind of felt like this was the year because I feel like they have the talent, they have the depth, they have everything they need. So I'm really shocked that the Raptors are still hanging on in this series. I felt like the Cleveland Cavaliers should have closed them out. Really should have swept them, in my opinion. I'm
Hmm.
not saying there's nothing bad about the Raptors, but I just feel like as far as uh, team depth and everything like that and experience, I felt like, it should have been at least 4-1 or 4-0, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, it shouldn't be going to game seven.
Nah, not game seven.
Especially because right now it's 97-95, a little under 6 minutes left. So they still got a chance to advance, but they got to close it out. That this is where Mitchell and Harden
Hmm.
need to, they need to earn their money, and they need to earn they need to earn a different reputation for being able to close it out, because it's gonna look, no, for real, it's gonna look
For
bad.
real.
It's gonna look bad on them boys, man.
Yeah,
If
it
they
is.
win it, you know what I'm
If
saying?
they don't win it, it's gonna look bad.
It's gonna look
It's
bad,
gonna look really bad.
especially for Harden, because it's like, dude, it's like you go to all of these teams to try to win. You was with the Thunder, you left the Thunder, went
Hmm.
to Houston. You was a superstar in Houston. You know what I'm saying? Then you left to go team up with the Nets with KD and Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie.
That didn't work out. You know what I'm saying? You left there. You know, went to the Clippers. Teamed up with Kawhi Leonard, and it's
Hmm.
like, dude, it's like, come on, man. You didn't been in situations to where you had opportunities to win. Now, don't get me wrong. If Chris Paul would have never went out in Houston,
Hmm.
with the I think it was
The
Achilles.
Rockets.
Yeah, with the Rockets.
N-
If he never went out with the injury,
mhm.
they had good chance to win that time. But things happen. But I would like to see James Harden. I always did root for James Harden. I would like to see him maybe get a ring before it's all said and done. And some people might not like him, but I always did like the fact that he's a high scorer. No matter where he go, he can give you 30, 40 points a night if he get hot. So
Mhm.
I like James Harden.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, man. James Harden just he got to change his reputation. I just feel like, like you say, he's a great scorer. He's always been good, and I feel like he has to change the narrative, showing that he can actually win something, win in the playoffs, man, in big games. Because even in Houston, it was games where he completely faded away. So he has to get over the hump. And Donovan Mitchell, the same thing. I feel like it's two players that's basically facing the same type of narrative about him. It's like, can they get over the hump?
Hmm.
So,
Let's see
yeah.
real quick before we get out of here. Let me see if they were to advance, who they would be playing. So the bracket for them. Cavaliers, Raptors. Okay, so if they advance, they playing the winners of Pistons, Magics. So
Mm,
that would be the next round, the semifinals for them. And then the Knicks, they're waiting on the winner of Celtics and 76ers.
mm. That's
Yeah.
gonna be, man. Either one of those gonna be those. That's gonna be some good series as well. Like if Nick, like let's say Knicks uh and the Sixers or Knicks in Boston. Man, that's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be crazy, man. The Garden,
Mm-hmm.
even like Cavs
Yep.
and who you said?
Pistons and Magics. They play the winner of Pistons and Magics if they advance.
Yeah, so even Cavs and Pistons, I feel like that's a good matchup as far as like the depth and team, and man, it's gonna be a battle.
Hmm. But I would like to see that Knicks. I would like to see Knicks versus Sixers because I want to see Embiid go against Carl Anthony Towns,
Mm,
and so I want to see
yeah,
that matchup. I would like to
yeah,
see
that'll
that.
be fire.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, and it's always been a battle between those two teams over the years, Sixers and Knicks. So yeah, man, you know, that's gonna be
That would be a
that's
good
gonna be
series.
something to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's pretty much all I had, Do. You know, if you
Who you
got
want to
something
win
else.
tonight? Who you want to win, Lakers or Rockets? Before we get out of
Oh man,
so the winner of this series play the Thunder.
I think Brian about to put them boys to bed tonight, man. I ain't gonna lie. No KD too, man. Yeah, I think Brian gonna put him to sleep.
Hey, Brian, hey, he
Yeah.
gotta, he gotta come with it because them Rockets didn't win the last two, bro. Rockets said
Hey,
they
that's a
going
fact
out.
though. That's true. That's
Rockets said
true.
they ain't going out, bro.
Yeah, they say they ain't going nowhere.
What
And
they
they at home
playing?
tonight too.
I'm checking right now. They at home.
Yeah, they at
I'm
home.
just about to check to see where they playing. Okay, right now it's 14-11. Rockets
Yeah,
lead.
yeah.
All right, man. Well, we out, man. Thank y'all for tuning in. We appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all like and subscribe to the channel.
Make sure y'all like and subscribe. Talk how we talk. Another episode. Till next time, man. We about to dive into these playoffs, man. Go check out this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Appreciate everybody. Y'all take it easy. We out.
We out.